Hey, Tim here. Right now, I'm looking at the multi-row calculations you can do in Tableau Prep. In this video, I'm going to show you how it works. I'm so excited. Even look at this. Tableau are highlighting how the moving calculation works. I'd love this in Tableau Desktop. But anyway, let me show you how this works in the latest release of Tableau 23.2. As ever, let's get stuck in. Okay, so to show you this, I've already got a flow that you can find in the description below. I've essentially put the starter file there. I've set this up in such a way that we've only got 3 fields. This is the simplest way to show you how this works. In essence, I've got the order date, which I've concatenated down to the month essentially, or truncated to the month, sorry. The category, which is just 3 categories in the Superstore dataset, and the quantity. This is actually the field we're going to use for our calculation. To show you this, I'll go ahead and go to the clean step because that's where this function actually lives. You'll notice that each of the capabilities in Tableau Prep fits in one of these sort of areas that I'm hovering over here. We'll go to the quantity field. You can select it if you want to, but if you hit these 3 dots, you'll see that you can go ahead and create a range of custom calculations. But you'll see there's also this area at the top which has the moving calculations that we're interested in. So we've got the difference from the percent difference from moving calculation. It's technically actually multi-row calculations because in order to do those 3 sets of calculations, you have to be able to look across multiple rows of data. Now, this is not the first time this is possible. You could have done this in a way with LODs. And actually, if you're sort of enterprising and you've been Googling a little bit, it's actually been possible to do multi-row calculations. Rob Carroll here on the community pages posted a solution which used the scripting capability in order to be able to do this. I'll put this down in the description as well so you can go to it. You might be able to use this technique to do something different in your own use case. But here, what we're going to do is we're going to do a moving calculation. I think this is the easiest one to show you. So as soon as you do that, you see you get this nice new interface, and essentially it creates a calculation for us. Now, one thing you should note is that all of these calculations are indeed actually just calculations you can edit. You can see it creates a change here on the left-hand side, and that change is just essentially a calculation that's been written for us. The nice thing though, and I'm really glad Tableau have done this, is that they've created this interface that I'm highlighting in blue that allows you to configure that calculation. Previously, in some of the other functions, you've had to know how to structure this calculation yourself. And in a way, it's taken away from the magic. So I really like this interface. So let me walk you through this interface and how it works. On the left, you have the calculation that you're doing. This is going to essentially show you the summary, like you see in Tableau Prep, a visual summary of the outcome. At the moment, it's red because, of course, we haven't configured our calculation. It's expecting this field here, order by, to be filled in. So let's go ahead and go from left to right until we've got this set up. So first, I'm going to group my calculation using the category. So basically, the way to think about this is to say that for each category, I'm going to order my data using the month. And there's actually a bug here where every time I click it, it disappears. And the only way I've found to sort of go out and come back into this is to click it again, go in here, select the pencil, and you see it opens it up again. But now you can see the calculation is working. So far we've said for each category, ordered by date month. And you can see here, you can see this is working in the correct order, going from smallest to largest. Essentially take the quantity. So this is our quantity field. It's the only number in here. And you have to do a computation. Essentially, the computation is either going to be a sum in this case or an average. And there's one final touch to this, which I think is quite easy to miss, but it's just really important, is this is actually a drop down. This little field is actually a drop down. And what you can do there is you can configure how far back and how far forward the calculation looks. And it assumes that you're going to include the current field. So if I say look back 1, it includes the current field as well, which means I'm looking at 2 rows at a time. If I remove that, then it actually means it's only looking back 1 row, and it essentially doesn't really work. And you can kind of see that because Tableau is constantly showing you the outcome. So you can kind of, if I just hold the screen right here, you can see that it's constantly showing you the results, literally row by row. It's also showing you the visualization here. And it's working because you can see that on the first row, there's obviously no previous row. So you get a null, and that makes a lot of sense if you think about it. How can you calculate the previous number on the first row? Because there is no previous number, so you get a null. So let's dial this up to 2. And you can see that as I dial it up to 2, now I have 2 nulls because the previous 2 rows don't exist on the first 2 rows, and so on and so forth. Now, if I tick obviously the current row, then actually this makes it look at 3 rows. So in a way, the way you set this up is all visual. I don't have to know what's going on with my calculation. And for the record, it's changing my calculation. We'll actually go and look at that in a second. But nonetheless, here you can see everything is work. Now I can also look ahead, so I can tell it not just to look at the current row and the previous 2 rows. I can also tell it to look ahead 1 row. So now this is looking at 4 rows in total. So it's a bit like a window calculation in Tableau itself, but you can kind of control it at its extent. And again, Tableau is being very visual here, and it's showing you those 4 rows here really clearly, so you can see the sort of net outcome. So as you sort of work your way through the data, you notice that as I click on each row, there's a very subtle highlighting. I'll try and highlight this in the edit. You can see this box, and this box is actually showing you the visualization of this moving window through your data. Now, when I had to explain window calculations in Tableau, I literally drew this box on screen to kind of show people how the maths was working in a table. Tableau have put this into the interface of Tableau Prep, and I have to say, Tableau, we need this in desktop because this is such a much better way for people to understand what's going on with the maths. Now, this is really nice because, of course, this is just a sum. So we're basically looking at a moving sum. It's adding the previous 2, the current row, and the next one. And it literally says that there. It spells it out for you. And so you can see the number. And so as you go down through your data set, you can actually use this as a way of checking everything works. Now, what I want to do is go down to a new category, because you can see we're in a new category here where I'm clicking. And you'll see that it starts again. Now, this is interesting. On the last row, because I said look ahead 1 row, it actually generates a null. So if I go back in here and I remove that and I go back to my preview, you'll see that on that last row, the number comes back. So you kind of want to be smart. You kind of want to go through and really validate what's going on. But again, here we see that on these 2 rows, the data essentially tells you not enough values. Then it starts computing the 3 rows. So this is a really nice touch. Let's change the calculation. Let's go do something different and let's see how that looks like. So let's go ahead. Let's hit done. We'll say this is a calculation. Actually, we'll call this, let me try and rename this. Let's click on that and call this moving sum 3 rows. Okay, we'll just call that like that. And we'll save that, and now that's been saved. Now, the nice thing here is we can, of course, go ahead and create a new one that's going to sit behind my face. So let's move that out of the way. Let's use a difference from, then we'll use percentage difference from, because that will be easier to see. So again, we're going to have this bug. I'll go ahead and I'll select group by category. Oh, it didn't do that this time. I'm going to do order date. Oh, I spoke too soon. It did it again. Let's go back out. Back in, click on this, and we want to edit this, and this will open up the interface. And now you can see it's now working. The great thing this time is saying difference from, and we're looking at category, order by the date month, like we were before. You can actually change this, so you can say look at it backwards. If that was a part of your calculation and you wanted to look at things in a slightly weird way, you could absolutely do that. But in this particular case, that's not what we want to do. So again, there's a little bug there. You know, I'm using, Tableau software right as soon as it's launched. So, you know, this is the authentic experience, as it were. But nonetheless, let's have a look at this now. So you can see that it's basically taking 241 and taking away 187 to give us 54. 251 minus 241 equals 10. And again, it's really nice. Tableau is essentially showing you the maths. If I just go ahead and get my highlighter here and just sort of draw a box, you'll see that it's showing you that maths really clearly. So this works exactly as you'd expect. Let's choose percentage difference from. It will obviously go and do the maths, and now you're calculating percentages and you're baking that in. So this is really nice, because what you have to do is now think about how you're going to use this feature. And this is actually where I think Tableau Prep starts to become a meaningful part of the data modeling experience in Tableau. And I do mean data modeling, because what you're able to do here in Tableau Prep is essentially shape your data. But what you can use that power for is to make sure you shape your data so you can use it to model your data in Tableau Desktop. So what you might do is you might bake in moving averages, moving sums, differences, so you're not having to do that computation in Tableau in a specific chart. But you can also bear in mind that in Tableau, you can do these calculations dynamically. You can obviously do running totals as you can in any chart. So in actual fact, in most cases, you'll want to do things dynamically inside of Tableau because that's where it's going to be good to do that. However, with the power of the data model, you've got some flexibility to be able to do these almost separate data models that answer specific questions at specific levels of detail without you having to go out and write a ton of LODs or add a ton of functions, especially on large data sets that could be slow. So you can actually bake the data sets ready to go. And if you're automating everything, you're doing extract refreshes on the dashboard, you're running prep flows in the background to refresh another data source in the background, as long as these are all sort of synced up, then you can actually create a data model that helps you answer very nuanced, specific questions in a very flexible way. So don't just think of this feature as something nice in Tableau Prep. It's going to be something you can also use to enhance the way your performance in the dashboard works, but also just gives you a bit more flexibility if you're using the data model. There were some exciting things shown at conference that also talked about how the data model is going to be enhanced. So this is this sort of paired with that is going to, I think, be a fantastic sort of capability set for the Tableau feature set. Now I'm going to close this down. I'm going to close this window. And if I go in here and edit, I'm actually not able to see the calculation. But if I hover over here, you can see that this is the function that was written by Tableau. And actually in some parts of Tableau, this is what you'd have to write. And so I think this is really interesting because I do think it's great that Tableau is just like abstracting this nasty formula away from you. But for the power users out there, you can, of course, invest a bit of time, maybe format this a little bit better, and you can set it up. Let me just try and see if I can actually edit it any other way. This is the thing. I don't think I can. I think the only way when I hit edit here is it opens this interface. I'm not actually able just to see the raw calculation and edit it myself. So it's slightly interesting there that you can see the calculation, you can see the computation, the interface. This is how it has to work. But that is the formula that it's writing for you. So that's a super handy feature. Anyway, that's it for this video. I've sort of rambled on a little bit too much. I hope you've enjoyed this sort of explainer. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. We're very close to 50,000 subscribers. I'd love to get there very soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.